Hey, what's up guys? Tom1992 here of Retribution Gaming, and yes guys, we have finally done it. It's not the cleanest however, but it is sub 1 minute 20 at 1 minute and 19 seconds. Kyros' Retribution is here. So, I have achieved my goal with this build. It was to try and get it under sub 1 minute 20. We have now done that, okay? And the thing is, we could actually go even faster. With better quality echoes and a little more perfect gameplay, with a bit of RNG on the crits here and there, we could actually go faster. And I'm predicting we could probably get as fast as 1 minute and 15 seconds, give or take, around there. One thing I will say is, with this, I have put so much time and effort and spent so many resources just getting this tweaked to where I feel comfortable about releasing it. So, at the end of the video, if you can smash that like button, if you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, it'd be very much appreciated. Going into this though, we have done well over 100 Reaver Kings, testing and tweaking this build to see just how far we could push it. And then on top of that, we have the farming side of it, where there's been an echo, a Pacific echo that's in this build, which took me almost 19 hours to get one single epic variant of it. And then we've also had some like failed echoes, like Gilded Icklings we wanted to try and include. I've done 150 plus runs of Baldoom, just target farming, and walked away with just one grey Gilded Ickling echo, which was kind of sad. The other thing as well is the amount of archaic bones. Like, we've easily spent over 100 plus archaic bones and a hell load of spectra just crafting potions just so we could like test the runs fully, make adjustments around that as well, and also testing different potions, because we didn't just want to settle on like the obvious choices, we want to also try not so much obvious choices. At the end of this video as well, I will have a run where we don't use any buff potions, just so you can kind of see the difference in time with that. Okay, so here is the stat page guys, and the first thing you'll notice is that we have fully awakened Heroic Kyros and Umbros, and we are running the Wormwood accessory set for its set bonus. Okay, so going into the stats, we are rocking just above 2k HP, and that's with mythics in mind. So right now you can actually rock a lot less, and you'll get away with it just fine. However, I did want to future-proof this build, and this is something I do want to look at taking into mythic runs, so we're going to be rocking 2k HP with that in mind. We then have weapon power about 5k. I found this is basically where the sweet spot is for how I want this build to run. Ability power is almost 10.7k. Now, if you could get like all epic echoes and that slotted in here, you'd probably be a lot closer to 11k than what's being shown here. So, going on to crit rating and crit power, didn't invest in these. I don't think these are worth investing into currently. That may change down the line, however, but for now, crit rating's at 3.1 and crit power's at 1.2. And that's more than fine, to be fair. If you were, or if you did want to invest in these, definitely invest in crit rating more over crit power, just so you're critting more frequently, and then go from there. Okay, so then going on to break power, this is just above 1k. This could actually be slightly higher, and I will go into that in the echo screen. We then have 3.6k physical defense. For the bulk of this, it's actually coming off Umbros and a couple of HP mods, and then we have mag defense at a whopping 5.3k, which is mainly coming off the accessory set and set bonus combined. So with the defense as well, you have to keep in mind that in January, which we're in now, there is going to be a defense rework, and hopefully it goes all well this time. So we should actually be getting quite a bit of value out of the defense stats when they eventually rework that. Okay then, so going into the echoes, the first disclaimer I need to make here is depending on the weapon will determine this accessory, okay? So for example, for Umbros, this is fine. However, if you've got like a Knight's Edge or like a gun or something where it has 2 defense slots, you're going to move this over into the weapon and then replace this accessory with a different one where it has like double attack or attack and balance. With that out of the way, so let's start with the echoes. So Archon Commander, this is taken for HP mainly. You are going to want this one in Epic if you can get your hands on that. It's pretty common to get. So again, max HP, ability power, great. Going into Archon, the max health again, the weapon power just taking us above 5k. We then have the Shrock Echo. This is the one that cost me almost 19 hours of my life. Again, max HP and ability power. And then over here, you got the Hollow 1 Echoes up here. These can actually be upgraded to Epic Rarity. Very easy to do. And then over here, we have the Dread Legion Echo. If you're running in like a group setting, you could slot the first in here. However, if you look over onto Umbros, we are running Artorak, and you could also slot the first Echo there as well, depending on boss and like group composition, etc. Again, we're then running Frostbreak in here. This is just a no-brainer. You could slot Gilded Icolin. That really depends on how they go forward with the defense changes though. It may be a case where if the defense rework is good, then this would actually be more ideal than the little amount of HP that you get. This is just more flat damage reduction. Over here we have a Hollow 1 Echo, and this one again can be upgraded to Epic Rarity. This would, however, not allow you to upgrade this. So there's a trade-off there. I feel like this one's the better investment though out of the two to get an Epic for. Going on to this one, we have Hollow 1s, and again we have room to upgrade one of them, so just grab another Epic Hollow 1, slot that in there. This one, however, this accessory, I would ideally prefer double attack slot. I tried so hard to get one, it just hasn't happened yet. RNG kinda sucky lately. So what you would do is double attack slot this, and instead of Hollow Horror, you would run a Bloodletter. Preferably an Epic one if you can fit that in there. Over here though, again, this is Frostbeak and this is Bloodletter. Again, just to clarify, the crafted accessory is the one that you are going to be changing around depending on the weapon. So ideally, when you're crafting this accessory, try to get one with this setup and try to get one with a different setup that matches your the weapon that you want to play with basically. If you do plan on playing with other weapons, I would use this build as a template to go off and then tweak the weapon power and ability power around that weapon. By that I mean, let's say I want to take a Tempest for example. Tempest is a great weapon, has really good damage, has some good break. So what I want to do to capitalize on that is invest a little more into the weapon power and break power and shave off some ability power. Not too much however, but enough to get some more value out of that, especially because if we replace like one or two Hollow 1s with some Bloodletters, we're getting a lot more break, which means the Tempest is going to break the boss quicker, and by breaking the boss quicker, you're going to get that damage out quicker through your burst. Okay, you're going to capitalize on the burst. It's just one example, and it may be like a kind of poor example, but you can kind of see where I'm coming across with this. Okay then, so let's move on to abilities. So this is just your kind of standard rake build here, nothing too fancy really. Of course we've got max investment in Savage Rake, we have max investment in Siphon Radiant, and let's be honest, like this one is probably going to be the best one out of the two here to pick from. Just getting a little more damage off this. Outside of that, these two really aren't that competitive picks for this build. You probably could work Hand of Reckoning in like a full investment at some point, but not really too worth it given how strong these two options are here. And this, like, if you were to ever invest in this in its current state, probably a bad idea to be fair. That said, however, there is a Kyros rework coming, so who knows, but keep an eye on that. For now, this is the way to go. Okay, so going into the active buffs that we get throughout the fights, the first one is going to be Innovate, and that increases our AP by 2% per stack, and that goes up to 5. Because we're running like daggers or guns with this, we can really capitalize on this. where if you were to run like two-handers, you can't really right now because two-handers just don't have orb generation on them. So this is going to be fantastic, that thing to have. And then on top of that, because we're running daggers in this case, we're going to get an increase in weapon power by 10%. So your weapon choice here will vary a little for that. However, because we're playing with like daggers, guns, we can pretty much upkeep innovate on the 10%, and that means we're also like going to be playing into arcane fragments by getting a ton of savage rakes in between. So this is pretty much a flat 10% buff throughout the fight. On top of that as well, with how we're going to be using daggers with this build, you can pretty much also upkeep flashing steel. Last but not least, we have the weapon ability. So in this case with Umbros, it's going to be the ability 1000 Cuts. And oh boy, does this weapon ability pack a punch. Even with the weapon power that we have right now, it's fantastic. And if you can get some crits on these as well, you can do some seriously crazy damage in such a short amount of time just activating this. Okay then, so going on to the affinities. The main things to take away here is you are going to want 15 in focus, 5 in discipline, and ideally 5 in instinct. And I'm going to kind of show you why that is as well. So we are going to start with instinct, and for 5 points we are going to get the perk Ultimate Orb. Each arcane fragment that is consumed by Savage Rake will slightly charge your ultimate meter. That's great, that's fantastic. This one, not so much. But again, pending Kyros rework, may be something worth to consider down the line. For 5 in discipline, we're going to pick up Fisher's Rake. And that basically increases damage dealt after using an arcane fragment by 5%, and that stacks up to 3 times. So that's 15%, 5-second damage buff, really nice burst window. We then also have focus, okay? Now this is kind of like the bread and butter of the build. So infused orbs grants a 50% chance to gain an arcane fragment when picking up an innovation orb. That there is a big one, okay? That's a big game changer right there. And then we also have access orbs, and with that increases max possible arcane fragments by 2, allowing you up to 5. So for the rest of the affinity points, you'll basically just place these in the trees where you think you will gain the most stats. That is weapon dependent as well, not just accessory set. That is also weapon dependent, so keep that in mind going forward. Also, again, like later down the line, they will probably be adding on to the system, and we also will be getting more awakening levels. So again, like keep that going in mind if you're after like a specific perk, for example. Okay then, and very briefly, especially for the newer players out there, we're going to cover some of the masteries for this. So for guarding melee, you're mainly going to want to take Latent Overflow. Okay, this is fantastic. For marksman ranged, you have kind of 2 options here. You can take the Arcane Reload, and this synergizes with the build very well. Like this is kind of similar to what daggers are doing. However, what you can do for some encounters is actually run Magic Chamber, and you may get a little more benefit out of that as well. Moving on to execution at melee. Right now, all we have is Momentum Dispersal. Unfortunately, there is no way of generating really like extra orbs through the perks. However, like you will take this. It's very similar to like the Sword and Shield, but Sword and Shield has no problem gaining rakes, so you can still maintain flow with the build. Execution and melee doesn't really have that option either. Like, yeah, so you'll run this. This is where if they were to rework, you'd probably find they would slot like innovation orbs or something. And then over to Twin Strike and melee, you are mainly just going to run this. This is great. Like, I mean, you can try Arcane Dance, for example, but this is kind of your bread and butter for this build. And with that all said and done, that is the end of the build section of this video. If you found this video helpful, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Retribution Gaming to stay up to date with everything Wayfinder. I'm so happy to actually finally be able to get this out there. This was a very long hours investment. Like I'm playing like up to 10-12 hours a day since like the first couple of videos that we done on it, to just try and find a way that we could really push this build out there a little more. It's just such a shame I couldn't get my hand on some more epic echoes, but it is what it is. The results are out there, and time-wise, I mean, you can get a little faster. It's not going to be too much faster, so keep that in mind. Like, even when you've got all like the epic echoes in there, the stats gained aren't just going to like magically knock off like 10-20 seconds, okay? It's going to be like at most up to like 5 seconds ish, and that's also including like with perfect gameplay as well. And who knows, if I can get the echoes, I may come back and try and demonstrate that a little more. But for now, after this whole project, I'm just gonna chill in game, enjoy it, awaken the rest of my stuff, because that's took a backseat while I was doing all this, just from the sheer amount of resources needed to like get some of the testing done with this. But overall, like on the YouTube side as well, get some other videos pumped out there, because that also took a slight backseat while I was doing this. Now, one thing I gotta say as well, credit where credit is due, okay? I did have some people helping me with this on different levels. So by that, we have like Grinch from the Wayfinder Discord, from the Kyros chat. We have 2Tap, we have Bing, we have Unsociable, and Xron, all from Retribution Gaming. And in some shape or form, they have either provided ideas, sparked ideas, or have put up with my ADHD conversations, where I have just like heads been full of ideas, and they've kind of helped me pick and choose some of the best ones. And with that said, I'm Terminator T92 of Retribution Gaming, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Enjoy the no buff potion run.